Hey there, Robot here. Thanks for the feedback on the last video. Turns out I had the echo active on the mic settings last time. Anyways, with the release of the Battle Beast comic, which is pretty good by the way, I wanted to pitch a battle between him and some other popular battle-hungry fighters in fiction, namely Boros from One Punch Man and Kenpachi Scaling from Bleach. The three of them are always seeking fights and always looking for a worthy opponent, so I'll be setting them in a three-way free-for-all battle. To be specific, I'll be using Battle Beast from his second fight with Thrag, Boros during his invasion of City A in One Punch Man Season 1, and Kenpachi at the time of his fight with Gerard during the 1000-year Blood War arc. I'll run through the scaling for each character before I run through the battle scenario. If you've watched the show or read the comics, you'll get the gist of Battle Beast's abilities. He's a super strong, nigh invincible cat with anger issues.
Let me tell you something, custom-made Tekadon robot!
Sorry, wrong one. He's one of the strongest characters in the Invincible verse, as he's capable of fighting Thrag to a near standstill. He's also proficiently trained in the use of all known hand-wielded weapons and combat apparatus. To not retread old ground, as I covered the scaling for top tiers in Invincible in my last video, shameless plug, but TLDR, his AP and durability are in the small planetary ranges, based off Omni-Man Mark and Theta's destroying planet Viltrum, and Thrag comfortably scaling above those characters. In regard to speed, while he can't fly across interstellar distances, he's capable of fighting and reacting to Viltrumites who can move at such speeds. This should grant him high-end MFTL reaction and combat speeds. Now recently I've seen the assertion that Viltrumites are only that fast in travel speed because Earth-based heroes like Rex, Eve, Fraudmortal are capable of fighting alongside and keeping up with Invincible. However, we know that Invincible holds back a lot during most of his fights against weaker opponents, and when he doesn't, he folds most non-Viltrumites enemies. The best way to assert that Viltrumites and other top-tier characters can fight at MFTL speeds is the fact that during the fight between Battle Beast and Thrag, Space Racer admitted he couldn't keep up with them. They were moving across the planet while fighting at speeds too fast for him to track. This is the same Space Racer who could cross interstellar distances and match the flight speed of MFTL Viltrumites. Additionally, in my opinion, Battle Beast's best attribute is his endurance. He was capable of fighting Thrag for multiple days straight, and that was already after he'd injured himself before the fight.
I lead the pirate band known as Dark Matter, and I am the dominator of the universe. My name is Boros.
The dominator of the universe, Boros. As the leader of the Dark Matter Thieves, he's been cursed with power so immense that no opponent on any world could offer him a true challenge. His quest to find a worthy opponent led him to Earth and to Saitama. Until this day, he's still one of the strongest opponents Saitama has faced. Now, if you've had any foray into Boros' scaling, you'll see that there are three major metas: multi-continental, planetary, and star level. These are all based on whether you use the statements from the manga, anime, or anime guidebook regarding the collapsing star roaring canon. I generally lean more towards the planetary scaling, as it's narratively more consistent.
All of my energy will be released, blasting you and this planet straight to hell!
Yassine recently made a video which explains it more succinctly. I'll link that in the description below. Now, with regards to Boros' multiple forms, I think his meteoric burst form should be in the small planetary ranges with his basic punches and kicks. This is because the collapsing star roaring cannon requires all his energy to perform, and Boros can throw more than 10 punches, so his basic strikes should be an order or two magnitudes weaker. Similarly, his released form should be an order of magnitude weaker than the meteoric burst strikes, just by going off the damage done to his ship from their attacks. And finally, his armored form should be weaker as well, but to what extent is unknown, as it just gets one punch by Saitama. Once again, I kinda covered this in my previous video, but TLDR, I generally scale the top tiers like Monster Garo, Platinum S, and Flashy Flash from the Monster Association arc to low-end MFTL. This is mostly off their speed showing from their fight. Boros should scale to and above these characters, as their statements which proclaim Boros versus Saitama as the strongest versus the strongest. Unless you believe Flashy Flash got exponentially faster since Boros' invasion arc, the statement should still apply. Like a lot of final bosses in the series, Boros also possesses busted regen. He can regrow limbs, and even piece himself back together from being pieced up by Saitama. That said, his vitality does have its limits, as his meteoric burst form shortens his life, and sufficient power can overcome his regeneration. In the world of Bleach, few names command as much fear and respect as Kenpachi Scaling. He's a captain driven not by duty, but by the pure unrelenting thrill of combat, and he stands as the embodiment of raw power and instinctual violence. His fighting prowess is so renowned that during the Quincy invasion, he was labeled as a war potential for his battle prowess. Kenpachi is undoubtedly a top tier in the series. He's certainly in the top 10, and arguably in the top 5, so the best way to scale him is to scale him to other top tier characters from the series. The only issue is the range for Bleach scaling varies much wider than the likes of Boros. You have low-end scaling, which has the verse capping at planetary to large planetary, from Yuha destroying Earth, Huecomundo, the Soul Society, and Hell, to the mid-end, which has the verse at galaxy levels, by extrapolating Huecomundo, the Soul Society, and Hell to be gargantuan spaces with pocket dimensions, thus upscaling Yuha's feats, to the high end, which has the verse reaching multiversal levels by taking statements like Aizen and Ichigo being transcendent, thus upscaling Thousand Year Blood War characters, who will scale to Aizen. Depending on how good a debater or how ratty a debater you are, you can make arguments for any one of these three being the most valid. I personally lean more towards the lower end of the scale. This is because feats like Grammy's Meteors were considered a threat to the Quincy's and Soul Reapers in the Seirete, even so much that Hashwald called for protection for Yuha. Now, while I don't think it would have killed or seriously injured any of the stronger characters, it doesn't lend credence to them being galaxy or universe busters. Similar to Boros, his different versions, like his base form with the eye patch, without the eye patch, Shikai and Bankai, would at least be an order of magnitude weaker than their stronger versions. Similarly, speed in Bleach ranges from relativistic to FTL to irrelevant depending on which feats or statements you use. However, unlike AP, the community is generally more aligned in placing them in the FTL to low-end MFTL ranges. This is largely derived from upscaling characters evading light-based attacks from early in the series. I'll note that the verse shouldn't be exponentially FTL, considering light-based attacks were still capable of tagging stronger Quincy's during the final arc. Kenpachi isn't really known for any extravagant or hacks-based abilities, but being a Soul Reaper grants him access to some standard abilities like the ability to harm souls due to being a spiritual being, as well as the ability to aura hacks weaker opponents to some degree with his Reiatsu. So to get this out the way before someone inevitably comments that they can't see Kenpachi, yes, technically they shouldn't be able to see him, but they both have means of perceiving him. Boros can sense energy, and it'd be hard to miss Kenpachi's massive Reiatsu. Similarly, Battle Beast has sensitive ears which can detect the tiniest variances in sound, and his whiskers can detect small shifts in air currents from nearby obstructions, so he'll be able to identify Kenpachi even if he's invisible. That said, to start, we'll have Boros' ship encounter Battle Beast stranded in space after a fight with his unfortunate opponent. Battle Beast will get aboard and dispatch of the onboard combatants as he makes his way to Boros' throne room. Similarly, Kenpachi will get ejected into a portal while he's fighting in the Quincy invasion. He would crash land into Boros' ship and, like Battle Beast, follow suit to head for the throne room. This would leave all three facing off against each other. Kenpachi's instinct would inform him that Battle Beast is the stronger opponent, and he'd charge at him. However, Battle Beast would be more than strong enough to block his assault and counterattack, launching Kenpachi back. This would send Kenpachi flying back into Boros, watching the skirmish on his throne. Kenpachi, feeling the rush, would activate his Shikai. Battle Beast would also notice the increase in Kenpachi's power and tense for a clash. However, Boros, who'd been a spectator up until this point, would join in and blindside Battle Beast. With all three finally getting into it, they'll all launch their attacks. This would destroy Boros' ship and send Fragment flying towards the nearby planet. Boros would activate Meteoric Burst to pursue the other two during their plummet towards the planet. He would 2-foot Kenpachi into the planet, leveling the mountainside. Then he'd circle back for Battle Beast and launch a torrent of blows at him. Battle Beast would turn the tides of their clash, catching Boros' punch and biting down into his side while their plummet approaches its conclusion. Their crash landing would devastate the landscape. The two would continue their scrap in the crater while a malevolent force would approach their position. This would be Kenpachi in his Bankai form. He'd cleave Boros in two and take Battle Beast's arm as well. In retribution, Battle Beast would charge Kenpachi. Kenpachi in turn would ready a slash, but would exert too much power and break his arm. However, a headbutt would more than suffice in overpowering Battle Beast's charge. Boros would reattach his lower half and charge up the collapsing star roaring cannon. All Battle Beasts, believing this to be a battle with a genuine chance of ending him, would ready himself for more, and Kenpachi in his Bankai is basically a near-mindless berserker who lusts for carnage. From here, I'd say that all three have viable win conditions. Battle Beast's win condition would be him winning the War of Attrition. Boros can only use Meteoric Burst for short bursts, as it shortens his life, while Kenpachi in his Bankai form is likely to damage himself by exerting too much of his own power, with Battle Beast having the highest combat and reaction speed. If he employs a more defensive and evasion-focused game plan, he could outlast both and finish them off while they're gassed. Boros' win condition involves him unleashing the collapsing star roaring cannon and destroying the planet. He could fly up out of reach of the other two and unleash the attack. The sheer power of the attack would eviscerate Battle Beast, and while Kenpachi would survive it, he'll be stranded in space and would suffocate. Kenpachi's win condition plays on the fact that he's far and away the most powerful of the three. He just has to land a clean hit to take out Battle Beast. While Boros could regenerate from being cut apart, Kenpachi can rip him apart repeatedly until he's unable to do so. So in general, I'd say the odds are Battle Beast 3 times out of 10, Boros 2 times out of 10, and Kenpachi 5 times out of 10. That video took a lot longer than I'd assumed, but I think I've got the hang of the process now. I'll aim to try to get one out a month, so if you want to see more like these, like and subscribe. Anyway, so there's always room for improvement, so if you've got any counter arguments to my scaling or the hypothetical battle, or even the video in general, leave a comment. I read them and I'll respond when appropriate. For now, that's all, so see you guys later.